Welcome back to CBS Saturday Morning. We begin this half hour with a potential key to America's clean energy future, found at the site of past environmental disasters. California's Salton Sea is a man-made lake created by accident in the early 20th century. Over the decades, it's fallen victim to drought and pollution, and its surrounding community has suffered economically from those environmental issues. But as John Blackstone shows us, the region could help meet the growing demand for electric vehicles.
In California's Imperial Valley, the Salton Sea, the state's largest lake, has been shrinking for years, leaving a toxic, dusty shoreline. But now there's growing confidence the arid land around the Salton Sea holds a vast supply of lithium.
It's a very significant, sort of what we call a world-class lithium resource.
Geologist Pat Dobson led a recent federal study of Salton Sea lithium reserves.
And that represents enough lithium to manufacture hundreds of millions of EV batteries. So it's a huge potential resource.
The move to electric vehicles has created a worldwide search for lithium to make batteries. But lithium around the Salton Sea has been no secret.
And we've known that for decades. But what didn't happen before is there was not a great demand for lithium.
For 40 years, lithium has been treated as an unwanted byproduct by geothermal power plants in the area. The plants produce electricity by tapping superheated fluid called brine a mile beneath the Earth's surface. The brine produces steam and then is injected back into the Earth. Lithium is one of the minerals in the brine.
For decades, we've been pulling lithium out of the ground and then putting it back. And so what we're looking at now is the opportunity to recover that lithium from the geothermal brine and utilize it for making batteries.
And that is bringing hope to Imperial Valley, where unemployment is high, wages are low, and agriculture is the dominant industry.
This is something big for the valley, you know what I mean? Because we never really have nothing of our own, so.
Johnny Haywood is one of those in a night class at Imperial Valley College, training mature students for jobs in the lithium industry. Some here, like David Maldado, are farm workers.
You work in the fields in the daytime?
In the daytime and at night I come to school.
Sammy Gonzalez and his father Jose both worked in the fields and are now looking for something better.
It's a great opportunity.
It's a great opportunity, right? And I'm so happy because we are studying together.
And I don't want any industry to say we have to bring outside people because there's not a ready workforce in Imperial County.
Efren Silva, dean at Imperial Valley College, created the training program for lithium industry jobs.
We hope and expect that there will be other industries joining the lithium industry, such as battery manufacturing.
The Imperial Valley dreams of becoming Lithium Valley, but the Salton Sea is a reminder of lost opportunities here.
If you go back to a map of California in 1880, there is no Salton Sea in the Salton Sea.
The Salton Sea was an accident created in 1905 when a levee broke and water from the Colorado River poured into the valley. The lake brought new life to the desert.
An idea that has intrigued and attracted and literally thrilled thousands upon thousands of men, women, and children.
In the 1950s, it became a popular tourist destination. But that faded over the years as the lake became polluted with agricultural runoff and grew twice as salty as the Pacific Ocean. As a lake in the desert, the Salton Sea is important to wildlife, particularly birds on the Pacific Flyway, which is why in the 1990s the local congressman campaigned vigorously to save the Salton Sea. The congressman was Sonny Bono. Yes, that Sonny Bono. Sonny and Cher's popularity in the 1960s boosted Bono's political profile when he ran for Congress in 1994. His efforts helped prompt the Salton Sea Restoration Act, but the act didn't become law until months after Bono died in a skiing accident in 1998. Although the act directed the government to reclaim the Salton Sea, it has continued to shrink as water is diverted from the Imperial Valley to cities in the San Diego area. But now lithium could change everything. This is the magic?
This is where the magic happens in terms of lithium extractions.
David Deek is with Energy Source Minerals, one of the companies developing methods for collecting lithium from geothermal brine.
So each of these columns will contain a sorbent that absorbs lithium into it.
This demonstration unit is in a shipping container, but the company is planning a facility that will be the size of 1,000 shipping containers. So you're confident
Yeah.
this is going to work 1,000 times bigger?
Exactly. We're highly confident, yeah.
So optimistically, the first commercially available lithium from your plant is at least 2 years away?
I would say that, yes. Yeah. If we close on financing and start construction immediately thereafter, we'll be in production and delivering to customers by 2026.
In a region that has known plenty of hard times, there's a chance this time will be different. For CBS Saturday Morning, John Blackstone, Imperial Valley, California.
The potential to fuel hundreds of millions of EV batteries. Unbelievable.
I didn't know anything about the Salton Sea,
either.
and I'm really glad we did that.
Yeah, and just an interesting twist that it was Sonny Bono who made such a difference
Right?
while in office.
Yeah, very interesting.
Yeah.
We joke around that this is like the $10,000 cup of coffee right now, but as we scale our production, we'll see our costs drop pretty dramatically, in which we should be able to make coffee that is great tasting, that is actually cheaper to produce than coffee today.
Back before the pandemic, Dana introduced us to the startup Atomo to show us about the science of coffee. The company began developing beanless coffee as a way to offset the environmental impact of growing coffee beans. 4 years later, Atomo continues to refine its product, and as Jo Ling Kent shows us, this beanless brew could be coming to a cup near you.
In the heart of America's coffee capital, this 30-person startup is brewing up a radical new approach to your morning Joe.
There has to be a better way to get coffee. We have to be able to make coffee without destroying our planet.
Atomo was founded here in Seattle by CEO Andy Kleitsch in 2019. He says our daily coffee ritual has devastating consequences for the environment.
Most people who drink coffee drink 2 cups a day, right? And if you're drinking 2 cups of coffee a day, it actually takes 20 coffee trees to support you for the year. So out there in the Amazon, there are 20 coffee trees just for you. So imagine that across New York City, like how many coffee trees there has to be to supply that entire city. It's kind of mind-boggling.
U.S. consumers shelled out nearly $110 billion on coffee last year. That's about $300 million every single day. As coffee demand grows, Kleitsch says it comes at the expense of virgin forests in places like Peru and Vietnam.
So what we are trying to achieve here is a way to supply the coffee that we all need every morning, but without causing any further harm, without causing any further deforestation. And what we found is by using upcycled ingredients, we can replicate exactly the coffee that you drink today without causing any of the environmental harm.
Instead of coffee beans, Atomo's espresso consists of ingredients most people would not associate with your daily cup. Date pits, millet, fenugreek seed, and sunflower extract, mixed with caffeine from green tea leaves.
How did you arrive at this recipe?
Yeah, when we first said, can we make coffee without using coffee beans? We really said, we should use ingredients that cause no harm. And we should try to find ingredients that are typically thrown away or just not utilized. And could we make coffee without causing any deforestation? So come on in. All right, this is our application lab. So this is a kind of a real intense extract. As we end up soaking them in a solution. Think of it like marinating a steak.
Atomo's replacement coffee could be a solution for an industry facing an existential threat.
So large coffee companies have come to us and said that they see a looming problem by 2050 where there will be a shortage of coffee. Our goal is to enable coffee companies around the world to deliver a great coffee experience without using coffee beans.
Kleitsch says that Atomo's formula is not only better for the coffee industry and the environment, it's also better for us.
We're using, fruits. We're using actual ingredients that have been proven to have health benefits and positive health impacts.
He also claims that Atomo has improved upon the caffeine jolts that you're used to getting.
How is it really different?
Right. So the caffeine that we use takes longer for your body to really absorb. And so that creates a longer period of heightening and then a slower decline as well.
Inside the lab, the moment of truth.
It's a Atomo latte with oat milk. Enjoy.
Cheers. It tastes like coffee. Yeah, it's like a nice, nutty, creamy flavor.
But how does Atomo measure up against Seattle's finest? Across town, we met up with Sam Spillman. She's the 2019 U.S. Barista Champion and a coffee industry veteran.
I think it's like coffee in disguise almost.
We did a taste test pitting Atomo against Spillman's own Cafe Vita blend.
Okay. Atomo espresso.
Atomo espresso. Let's
Cheers.
try it. The taste, it's like chocolatey. You get some like graham cracker in there, some kind of acidity notes like a tart cherry, but it's not coffee. It's just a different thing.
Could it become that?
I could see this becoming more like coffee.
It might not be ready to replace Cafe Vita's own gourmet coffee just yet, but it could be a viable alternative to big chain brands or to that bag of beans you're picking up at the grocery store.
If you were to rate this latte 1 to 10,
I think like 6.5 to 8, depending on the milk that's being served with it. Oh my gosh.
this is more coffee than I would drink in a week.
But Atomo has a long road ahead. The company can only make 5 pounds of coffee a week in the lab.
We're early days, yeah, which means we can only supply one coffee shop with enough coffee for 5 hours of business.
But thanks to $40 million of venture capital funding and a new factory, which they're going to call the Roastery, they're poised to significantly ramp up production.
By April of next year, we'll be able to provide thousands of coffee shops with enough coffee for every day. And then about 2 years after that, we should be able to supply 1 billion cups of coffee.
Those billion cups representing untold acres of forests that would otherwise be chopped down for our morning coffee fix. And according to Kleitsch, that's the real win.
So for us to be successful, we have to make a difference in the world. That's my goal.
Atomo is on a path to disruption, and if the company can scale up, it has grounds for real success. For CBS Saturday Morning, I'm Jolene Kent in Seattle.
So in 4 years since we had gone there, they've gone from just cold brew to now having this. And I think the interesting thing is coffee is a taste thing. So it may not taste like the coffee you know, but that may bring in people that didn't like the way we know coffee nowadays, too.
Maybe you could put Atomo in one of the 4 mugs every day.
With that added caffeine.
There's a wide selection of different beverages.
Yeah, well, I hope that maybe it can be a switch out. Some of the ingredients that they use will help to sustain some of the farms that do produce coffee because they really rely on it.
Yeah, all good, all good.
The United Nations is warning the weather phenomenon known as El Nino could make 2024 even hotter than 2023, which was the hottest year on record. One consequence of rising temperatures is the rapid melting of the world's glaciers. Now a group of scientists in Chile is working to create artificial glaciers. Manuel Bojorquez has more.
It started innocently enough. A hike up the mountain with a group of scientists for a rare glimpse at an artificial glacier. As it turns out, for the inexperienced climber, yours truly in this case, this heavenly setting can make for quite a hellish hike. No trail to follow, just slush. The freezing, thin air of nearly 10,000 feet filling your lungs. An hour-and-a-half climb up, they said. Try 4, all to see this, an almost otherworldly-looking monolith of ice. So thank you for bringing us up here. I almost died along the way, I think, but I made it. It's called a stupa, and it's the creation of Sebastian Goldschmidt and his team at Project Nihilus. So you're capturing the water that's coming down from the glaciers and refreezing it.
You're refreezing it, okay, without using additional energy.
Without using just gravity?
Yes, just gravity.
A pipe brings the water down slope and into what resembles a sprinkler head. As it freezes in the cold air, it forms a tiny glacier, a concept borrowed from Ladakh, India, where the structures have been used to store water for dry months.
Because you will have some water when before you didn't have.
Right.
So
you're stretching out the amount of time that there's water flowing.
Yeah, it's
down.
kind of buffer. Yes.
A buffer. The team decided to build this one in Cajon del Maipo, a canyon in the Andes southeast of Santiago, the capital of Chile, which relies on glaciers for most of its drinking water. You said 10% of the world's glaciers are here in Chile, and 80% of the glaciers in South America are here.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
And that's why this is so important for you.
For us, and the water is vital. It's a vital element. So we need to respect it.
Climate change has done anything but.
You have Juncal Sur, the same glacier, flowing from right to left. In 2018, you can see Juncal Sur is gone.
Andres Rivera is a professor of geography at the University of Chile. He showed us photos of one nearby glacier in the 1950s compared to 2018. He says glaciers have seen ups and downs driven by natural variations in climate, but this is something else.
This is what is called climate change. And it's because the increase of greenhouse gases to the atmosphere that is changing the global heat balance, and the temperature is increasing.
He says the stupas are an interesting concept, but with limited impact because they don't address the root of the problem, a warming planet.
To address the climate change impact problem, we need much more, effort from the whole society.
Still, other countries are taking note. On our trip, a team of scientists from Peru came along to see the stupa.
Why is Peru interested in this concept?
It interests us a lot, he says, mostly because our city is in a region with limited water supply. As the stupa begins its slow drip, Goldschmidt sees the potential.
But also, we wanted to go near the glaciers, okay?
Okay.
So we want to repair our glaciers.
Oh, you want to repair the glaciers? Wow.
Yes. That's our dream.
That's your dream.
Yes.
So this is a first step, he says, given the climate crisis, of a steep uphill battle. For CBS Saturday Morning, Manuel Bojorquez, Cajón del Maipo, Chile.
I love the sharing of technology, that they got it from India. Now Peru wants to kind of listen in on how it works.
Could need more projects like this.
Oh, yeah.
There's no doubt about it. The image of a shepherd tending a flock of sheep goes back centuries, but lately it's gotten quite a modern update. In many parts of the country, agricultural land is now home to the massive panels of the booming solar energy industry. And that land remains suitable for grazing farm animals, which in turn control the growth of vegetation around the panels. Solar grazing, as it's known, is just one example of the agri-solar industry, a growing space which combines the old and new to enhance both the economy and the environment.
You ready, Reg? Oh, wait a minute.
It is a border collie's dream come true. 6 acres of land, calling for Reggie to do what she was born to do.
Good girl, Ida. Get up, Reg. Get up, up.
Herding a flock of 32 sheep under the watchful eye of her owner,
Good girl, good girl. Hi, sheep.
Dan Finnegan.
One well-trained border collie like Reggie is worth 5 full-time employees.
Wow.
Between the sheep and the dog, I'm just a driver. Here we go.
Dan is more than just a driver. He's a third-generation sheep farmer in southeastern Massachusetts. And while this isn't his family farm, it is Dan, Reggie, and the flock's office for the day. Together, they make up Solar Shepherd, working with large energy companies across the U.S. using the sheep to graze sites like this one, which host solar arrays. In Dan's words, they're in the lambscaping business.
Did people think you were crazy or
At
not?
the very beginning, the conversations were centered around you'd like to do what on our solar array?
Yeah.
Now that's not so much the case. Good girl, lie down.
Dan started Solar Shepherd 5 years ago.
Why do you think it's been embraced so easily now, or at least so well now?
Well, first and foremost, the sheep do a great job.
Excellent workers.
They're wonderful workers. They do a great job of managing the vegetation on the solar array. They fit underneath the solar panels. The old-fashioned way of managing these sites would be to come in with a crew of 5 or 8 guys on zero-turn mowers with the bulk of their time spent running weed whackers underneath the solar panels to get all that vegetation that grows under there. You know, a site like this, you'd probably send an 8-man crew for 3 days each time they mow it, at least 3 or 4 times a year.
Time and money.
Time and money.
There's also the environmental impact. According to a recent study, if all sheep in the U.S. were shifted to agri-solar farms, the reduction in carbon emissions would be the same as removing 117,000 cars from the road. This field, which Solar Shepherd grazes, is one of 30 owned and operated by National Grid, responsible for providing power to more than 20 million customers in the Northeast.
This brings energy into the grid.
Steve Werner is the president for National Grid New England.
What was it about agri-solar that attracted National Grid?
It's an interesting solution to a problem that we have, right? So we installed large-scale solar for residents of Massachusetts. We need to maintain the vegetation, the grass that grows on those properties. We came across this idea and said, hey, this is a win-win. It's cost-effective, it's environmentally responsible, it's friendly to the neighbors, and this is just another example of how an area that was agricultural use still can be, and also be a generator.
Those stacked benefits from solar grazing, especially when it comes to the environment, are exceeding expectations, according to Stacy Peterson.
We're seeing sometimes a threefold increase in pollinators. We're seeing 3 times the amount of birds and bees, bats, butterflies.
She's the energy program director at NCAT's AgriSolar Clearinghouse, a government-funded information hub for all things agri-solar.
How much has this industry grown in the last 5 to 10 years?
So much. This is taking off all across the country and all across the world, really. We're there to help you figure out what's best for your area and connect you with the right people that might help you do this if you want this at your farm or if you want this in your community.
Solar grazing is just one of many in the agri-solar sphere. On solar sites nationwide, there are pollinators and beekeeping, crops grown, cattle raised, even fish farmed. Peterson says the opportunities appear endless.
So this is going to be a game changer in being able to move forward sustainably.
People may not see agriculture and solar as fitting together naturally. Why would you say that they maybe do?
I think that it is another crop. They're harvesting the sun again. They are providing the crop of energy. And they're doing that in a way that they can sustain their farm. I'm talking to farmers that they're able to pay for their farm for generations. They look at this as a way to be a good steward of the land. It does not come in with a mini mall. It doesn't come in with a residential development. This is something that can be returned completely to agricultural lands.
And with the number and size of farms in the U.S. steadily declining over the last 15 years,
hey, there. Rich, that'll do here.
That may be the relief many have been looking for. It certainly has been for Dan Finnegan and Reggie.
Without this solar operation and the added pasture it brings us, we wouldn't have a sustainable farm. We need this. And I think there are a lot of other farmers in that same boat. When you think about how many animals you need to produce a living, particularly in the Northeast here, it takes a lot of acreage to do that. So the 100 acres of solar pasture we have under management, that makes our farm sustainable. If we didn't have that, we wouldn't be able to continue. So we're producing food, fiber, and energy all from the same acre of land. It's a smarter way to use this land.
I kept sort of looking for, well, what's the negative? Because you start looking, and really the hardest things seem to be maybe for some of the farmers that upfront cost of if they had to cart some of their sheep around or if some of the planting was different. But it really seems like everybody is getting the win out of this, even if there is some upfront cost in the beginning. You make up for it in so many other ways.
Might get incentivized at some point.
Certainly, and if you can keep your farm or your business going for generations, that's incentive right there. When you think of the Smithsonian, you probably picture all the impressive museums lining the National Mall in Washington, D.C. But for 100 years, the Smithsonian has also been running a tropical research institute thousands of miles south in Panama. Senior national and environmental correspondent Ben Tracy takes us to this unique scientific outpost in the middle of one of the busiest waterways in the world.
So this is your ride to work?
Yep, it is. Got to get in the boat to get to the island.
Helene Muller-Landau has one of the more unusual commutes in the scientific community. She rides to work alongside giant container ships heading down the Panama Canal.
It's a pretty cool commute to work.
Indeed.
And this is her office, Barro, Colorado Island, the world's oldest continuously studied tropical forest.
So we're here in the tropical rainforest, and on cue, here comes the tropical rains.
Absolutely. It's amazing for a tropical site because it has a 100-year uninterrupted legacy of research, which gives us a really strong foundation of knowledge about the plants and animals here.
Muller-Landau leads a research team using drones to survey the health of the tree canopy. There's more than 500 species of trees on this island, which have been studied and measured for decades. It's also part of a worldwide network called Forest Geo, which monitors 7 million trees on 77 sites in 29 countries to determine the health of our planet's main ally in the fight against human-caused climate change.
One of the great services tropical forests do is basically locking up a lot of carbon that would otherwise essentially change the climate.
Trees suck planet-warming carbon dioxide out of the air through photosynthesis. 46% of the world's living carbon pool is stored in tropical forests. But when those trees burn down in wildfires or are cut down in places like the Amazon rainforest, all that stored carbon is released back into the atmosphere, causing more global warming.
All of those trees are carbon.
Josh Tewksbury is director of the Smithsonian Tropical Research Institute in Panama, which has operated on Barro Colorado Island for a century.
Why does the Smithsonian run an island in the middle of the Panama Canal?
So, to answer the question, you have to go back to the creation of the country of Panama.
Backed by the United States, Panama broke away from Colombia in 1903, allowing for construction of the Panama Canal to be completed by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. Digging the canal created this massive lake in the middle of the country, turning a once forested hillside into Barro Colorado Island, named for its red clay soil. The Smithsonian sent scientists to start a research station here.
Science in the United States was the Smithsonian, and therefore we came, and we've had a continued presence on the island, sort of been doing research there since about 1923.
This is where tropical forest research was born, and it holds the world's most complete scientific record of plant and animal life in these unique ecosystems.
Has the mission, the focus, changed in this era of rapid climate change?
The urgency around that mission has shifted dramatically in the last 30 to 40 years. Thinking about life on a sustainable planet as a major emphasis of what we do.
Our continued burning of fossil fuels is a threat to the so-called lungs of the planet. In a new study in the journal Nature, scientists found that places on Earth are now so hot that tropical leaves may lose their ability to perform photosynthesis and die.
Good. Yep. All set.
It makes the research here on the island even more critical.
The first few meters is not a problem.
Which can include climbing a nearly 150-foot tall weather tower.
This is why you had me sign that form.
That houses sensors collecting data on the health of this forest.
We run a network of sensors spread over all of Panama.
Sergio Dos Santos is a project manager and says some sensors help determine whether the forest is absorbing or emitting carbon dioxide.
So that's that sensor all the way up there. The white sensor, it's a carbon flux sensor. There's other things. There's a rainfall sensor right
I'm
there.
trying not to look down there.
Why?
I like looking at the sensors
So,
up above me.
okay.
This is a beautiful view, though.
Yeah, it's nice.
I mean, you can see the canal and the lake. And
yeah, you can see everything. It's beautiful.
And while this island may be run by the Smithsonian, it's a museum without walls, where nature's art is always on display.
It's an amazingly special place. I think likely the most stable part of the U.S.-Panama relationship over the last 100 years, and we're looking forward to being that stable part of it for the next 100 years.
For CBS Saturday Morning, I'm Ben Tracy in Panama.
Nice work by Ben climbing up that tower.
Yeah. Producer Chris Spinder, I'm going to guess Roger Masterton was the photographer. I'm not certain.
Don't know.
But that was amazing work.
Important work
Yeah.
done there, and it just eye-opening to what the job we have ahead of us in saving our planet.
I thought it was interesting, not just what they're doing there, but the fact that they're monitoring 77 million
I know. From there.
trees
Yeah.
around the world.
Unbelievable stuff.
That really is something.